Hey guys, welcome back to Working Aussies Homestead. I'm Jordan, and today I am going to go over 5 budgeting tips for spring and summer planning on your homestead. Let's get started. So the first budgeting tip is to think ahead as spring is in the air. Now is the perfect time to add some new animals to your homestead. Babies are being born. That includes chicks hatching. We all know chick days at Tractor Supply or any local hatchery has all of those chicks going on sale. You also have baby goats being born. All of your local goat owners are having those kids pop out. We have baby lambs being born. So spring is the perfect time to add new livestock to your homestead in the form of babies, of course. So that is the first thing to keep in mind with planning your spring and summer budget is if you do plan on adding those animals, make sure the initial cost is in the budget, but also plan for your feed bill to go up. Now, a couple ways to combat an increased feed bill can be either fermenting your feed, if we're talking about poultry. You can also do that for pigs. Now, some animals with a rumen, like the goat and sheep, do not do well with fermented feed, so you do want to kind of limit that a little bit. But with spring and summer coming on, I'm sure your garden is starting to burst out a little bit. And another way to combat an extra feed bill is to actually use some of those vegetables from your garden and give them to your animals. So essentially free feed. Here on our homestead, we put up what we want initially, and if there are any sort of diseased leaves or any sort of pest pressure on any plants, we do like to give those to our chickens. So they are a great way to go ahead and take care of that. We can also put them in the compost. So back to talking budget wise. Another thing you can do is reach out to other local farmers near you and see if they have produce that regularly needs to be thrown out. You can certainly see if you can get that produce for free to feed to your animals on your homestead. Now, the second gardening tip is actually focused on the garden. So if you are planting a garden for the first time, or if you did not seed save from last year, one of those new expenses is going to be seeds for your garden. So make sure that you have that allotted in your budget so that it's not a surprise cost later on. It also helps you be a little bit more mindful when you go to order seeds rather than just picking some seeds up on a whim. That way you make sure that you have that in your budget. Say, okay, I'm going to give myself $100 to spend on seeds. What seeds do I want? It also makes you a little bit more mindful of, is this something I'm actually going to eat from the garden? Or is it something that I'm going to feed to my livestock or my animals? Or is it something that I'm going to sell to other people? So you want to have that in mind when you're adding those in to your budget about the garden, is those seeds. Another thing kind of tying into this, but we'll go ahead and call it part number 3, is your amendments. Now, this can be whether you add things into the soil, this can be grass seed, this can be compost, wood chips, you name it. These are going to be a much larger expense in the big scheme of things, just because typically you do need more of it and it is more of a cost up front. Now, for our garden, we have purchased good compost and wood chips to lay on our beds just because our soil health is still lacking a lot. And so for us, it made more financial sense to go ahead and purchase good compost. That way we get more out of our garden every season. We just recently got 7 cubic yards of compost delivered, and it was just under $300. So that was something we needed to make sure that it was in the budget, or that we at least had the money to do so. That way it wasn't a surprise thing. Now, another thing that we will have to do soon is probably get another load of either compost or wood chips to add on to the garden. Now, we also, a few months ago, added 12 cubic yards of wood chips to our property. We had it delivered as well, and that was just over $350. So again, a little bit more of an expense, but we reap so much more in our gardens because of bringing that good soil onto the property. So you do want to make sure that you think about that going from spring into summer. Is, do you need to add some more topsoil to your garden? Do you need to add more mulch or wood chips? What kinds of things do you need to add to your garden? Go ahead and make sure that those are in the budget. Another topic that we have tried to address a little bit more here on our homestead is last year, we're gonna story tell for a moment, but last year we had a major drought in the spring, early summer, and it really kicked our butt on the homestead because we did not see our pasture come back as full and as vibrant because of that. How we have decided to combat that is at the end of the season last year, we did go ahead and set up gutters on the back half of our house and added 2 IBC totes that hold up to 750 gallons of rainwater. Now, another thing that we're going to need to do to continue that rainwater storage is we need to add 4 more totes onto the front of the house, and that's something that we plan on doing here within the next month or so. That's going to need to be added into the budget to do so, and we're looking at roughly $600 to complete that project. So that would be 4 more IBC totes and then the gutters to put on the front of the house. Another larger expense, but also it's going to save us in the long run if we do have another drought or not. We are able to use that rainwater, no problem, no cost to us now, and that's going to save us a lot more in the long run. What happened last year is our well would actually dry up after just an hour or so of use because it's a very shallow well. And so having the rainwater will definitely help, because with the well drying up, then we had to use our city water that was much more expensive than it normally is because we had to use it on the garden. So using the rainwater now, not only for the garden but also for the livestock, will help us a lot. But that's something else that you can keep in mind if you have issues with water, or if you're wanting to go ahead and decrease your water bill for the spring and summer, is go ahead and set up some rainwater catchment systems. Now, the 4th budgeting item and tip that you need to keep in mind for spring and summer, going back to adding those animals, building projects. So if you are bringing on more animals and you're needing to create or buy housing for them, you need to keep that in mind. That's going to be a much larger cost than what you probably think it will be. Now, we do have a few tips here on our YouTube channel of DIY animal shelters that we have done for as cheap and as free as possible. Great things that can be used for a variety of animals is actually old wire dog kennels. Just retrofitting them with some metal panels. You can use those for chickens, you can use them for rabbits, and they're great for that because it's a small square footage, but you can still rotational graze using that. Now, another thing is with housing, you can always find free pallets. You can always find metal panels that people are giving away, like siding panels. Those are great resources to check out. And you know what? Sometimes if you're working on a budget, it doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be functional. And keep that in mind. A perfect example is we have a 18 by 24 foot barn, and it was a free carport that was gifted to us that we enclosed with free pallet wood. And so now we have a functional barn that has 3 stalls, and it's where we keep our hay and where we keep our rabbits, and that was almost completely free. So the only thing was we did have to buy the screws for it. So keep that in mind with your budgeting for spring and summer is building those housing or having housing for those new livestock. Now, the fifth item that we're going to talk about today for your budget, remembering for your spring and summer budget, is everyday life. I know that sounds silly because you're like, oh yeah, of course, we're gonna remember that, but some things like to sneak up on you. And a good example is vehicle maintenance. So now that the weather is warming up, I'm sure you're probably going to be traveling a little more, especially if you attend any markets with your produce or you go to any events with your livestock or whatnot. You want to make sure that your vehicles have a good clean oil change, make sure that they are up to par, make sure to check your tires if they need to be replaced. And I know that sounds silly, but being married to a car guy, that's a huge thing for us, is he just wants to make sure that our vehicles can absolutely get from point A to point B with no problems. So that is something to keep in mind with your budget, is planning ahead, being able to look and go, okay, we probably need to add some new tires to the vehicle soon. That's going to be several $100s. And so you want to make sure that you are prepared for that expense. Some other things with the change of the season, your heating bill might go down, but your electricity might go up if you have an AC unit. So planning ahead for that. So through winter, our electricity budget is typically between $200 and $300, and in the summer it's between $300 and $400, just because it gets so hot here and we run our AC units. Really think about in your budget what happens every spring and summer for you. What in your life changes? Does your grocery bill go up? Does it go down? Do you use up all of the items to cook in your pantry? Do your cooking methods change? Do you cook outside more in the summer? Do you cook outside more in the winter? If that changes, then make sure that your budget can reflect that. So like if we started cooking outside more, we're probably going to need to add a charcoal budget into our budget. I did want to pop in here real quick and let you know that the TV show we are in is live. I'll go ahead and leave a link down on where you can find it on the Pursuit channel, and I'll leave that down in the description below. Also, I did finish up our Working Aussies Homestead website, so please go and check it out, look at all of the pages, and give me some feedback on it. I would love that, whether you send that in an email, a message, or you can even leave it down in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it, and we appreciate your support in watching our videos. But I hope that these tips were a good reminder to you to include in your budget moving forward from spring into summer. Thank you so much, guys, for being here with me today. We'll see you next time.